Thanks very much, everybody. Good evening and welcome to the 92nd Street Y, where tonight we're going to introduce America's newest author, Mr. Don Rickles. And you're in for quite a night, too. Anyway, I've been a friend and a fan of Don's for, we were trying to figure it out the other night, for probably 45 years. I lived in Los Angeles. I went out there in the 50s and lived there through the 50s, 60s, 70s, and into the 80s before I came back to New York in 1983. And I must tell you, in those years, Los Angeles had the greatest collection of comedians living right there in the city. Many of them came from New York when the New York politicians foolishly let the television industry slip away to LA. Some of them came out of vaudeville. Some had their own radio shows that we all remember, and then starred in their own early television situation comedies. But they were all there. And in the 60s and 70s and 80s, there seemed to be a major banquet every other month, honoring or roasting somebody in Beverly Hills. And this was their chance for all those comedians to stand up and show their stuff. These were routines they had worked on for a lifetime, polished to perfection, every line, every word, carefully put together. And these people were very, very competitive with one another. Their timing was impeccable, their delivery flawless, and if you were in attendance and saw all this talent in one night in Los Angeles, you would never forget it. But when it was over, when they had to close the show, the only one they called on was Don Rickles, and he would come on like a hurricane, seize the night, seize everyone there. It wasn't a written act. I mean, it was a spontaneous combustion of comedy made up at that moment about who was there, what they had said, and what we had just seen. And he was so lightning quick, and he was fearless. He would say the most outrageous things to the biggest stars in show business, and they loved it. And the reason Don Rickles closed the show was simply because nobody else could follow him, and everyone knew it. Now, over the years, I've interviewed Don many times. I'm going to show you some of those clips. Actually, it wasn't really an interview. It was really just a meeting. I was the entertainment editor for Channel 7, Eyewitness News in Los Angeles. And if Don was appearing somewhere, I'd grab a camera crew and go to the event really just to talk to him on camera and have some laughs. Like the time the Friars Club was having a lunch for the manager of the Dodgers, Tommy Lasorda. Take a look.
I'm here for the Lipschitz wedding.
The Lipschitz wedding, no.
Tommy who?
Tommy Lasorda. He's the manager of the Dodgers.
He's wanted by the Italian people in Sicily. This man is wanted.
I know he's wanted.
He was in a cave in Salerno with my uncle. Look at him smiling like it's a lock. He's got a personality like a bad dugout. What is your name, sir?
My name is Regis.
Regis? Do you wear a dress? Hello, Regis. Where's your earrings? Yes, just get out of the way. Why is this light on? What do you people want?
There you go. That's the Don Rickles that I love. So how did this all happen to this quiet, somewhat shy kid from Queens? How did he go from the toughest nightclubs in New Jersey and Brooklyn to the 4 shows a night in Las Vegas lounges to become the top comedian in show business, the one no one else could follow? Well, it's all in the book, the Rickles Book. And get ready, everybody, because here's the man himself, ladies and gentlemen, Don Rickles.
Honored guests, Rabbi Shulman, Cantor Chayman, and Father Conglin. Shalom, shalom. Thank you, Regis. I will join you in a moment. Sure. I can't thank you enough for your wonderful words, which I really can't live up to. When you think of 81 years, how God has blessed me to come this far to get a chance at the Y. And everyone said, as David Rosenthal of Simon & Schuster said, Don, this is where it is. These are the people that'll buy the book. And I'm looking at the crowd. This is a donation crowd. This is a donation. But I'm here. My wife and I had a chance to be in Miami at Donald Trump's home to be Regis's help. Regis goes there with Joy every 20 minutes, and and Trump comes in and says, take over everything. And I've been down there, but he's good friends with Donald Trump. Donald Trump I've worked for too, but that has nothing to do with it. Tonight, we're not honoring Donald Trump, and we don't plan to honor Donald Trump, and I'm fed up talking about Donald Trump. But it's nice to see in the front some of the elders wheezing and spitting up while I'm talking. That's the crowd Regis gets. God bless him in the morning when I do the show. They're all going, Regis! Regis and Kelly! Who the hell with any brain gets up at dawn to see the two of them walk out and introduce Farland Mithluman and whoever the hell it is? But it's a great show, it really is. He's come a long way, Reg. I remember when we stood on Sunset on Los Angeles Boulevard.
Yes.
We mentioned Joey Bishop, and you dropped your pants and had a nervous breakdown. And he was the Ed McMahon of the Joey Bishop show, and Joe used to say, hey, Regis, don't worry. And he always advised us. Remember when I used to do the show?
Yeah.
Joey said, you know, Regis, you got to come on a different way, a different attitude. And Rickles, you got to try to be funny. You got to try to be humorous, funny. And now he's in Newport in a home. Anyway, I just said that, and Regis went. Now, Joey's a good guy. We made fun of him. He kind of very tough with his own words, but
yeah.
He was a good guy. But I've come a long way because of you people. I miss, at a night like this, I think of an emotion time. I think of Johnny Carson, rest his soul, who was so magnificent for me in my days. God, I had such great times with that man. And he was pretty much of a loner, personally. And when you hung out with Johnny, it was a treat, because he didn't like to be around a lot of people. But I was great. I used to be able to kid around with him and say most anything, you know. And he would always laugh, and that saved me, because that's how I started his show in New York. I came out on the stage, and he said, Mr. Rickles, I'm Johnny Carson. I said, and I always used to pick that up. I used to say, Johnny Carson, when I had my own show for 20 minutes. Johnny Carson. He said, I know who I am. You don't have to keep introducing me. And I laughed, and he laughed, and I never saw him again. Anyway, no, that's not true. He passed on, and he was missed. And a young man by the name of David Letterman had done a great job. He has a lot of qualities that I would think you and I would agree that Johnny had. Nothing to take away from Jay Leno or Jimmy Kimmel. They're all fine artists, but David has that extra little quality that Johnny Carson had that I admire so much, and I've had great success being on his show, as well as with Jay, but really with Johnny was a special time in my life. And of course, I'd be amiss in the book. I take a great deal of time to talk about a man that I adored. He was tough, he was moody, he had all kinds of strange ways about him, but he was special to me and to my wife and my family. And his name was Frank Sinatra. As David said, very sweetly, he said, Don, why do you write so much about Frank? I said, because, David, he was a part of my life that was so interesting. He gave me chances. Can you imagine a Jewish kid from Jackson Heights, Long Island, a guy that, and I don't want to, that's why I didn't write a book about that. You know, you think my book would be about, there's a lot of people write books like, started on the Lower East Side, my mother had cancer, my father was a gangster, my uncle was a drunk, and my aunt was a fag, and my brother was a wild fighter pilot, whatever the hell. And it was so, who cares? Nobody cares about that. In fact, I have relatives that say, we're not in the book. I said, why would they care if Lou Pearlman got a headache? They don't care. So my book is David Ritz, God bless him, who helped me structure this. We did it with, I'd speak into a mic about 6 months or more, and we'd speak into a mic, and then he'd double space it and put it on his typing machine, and away we'd go, and I'd leave space, and I would rewrite it in my own hand to get my own voice. And I hope that comes across, the stories about Sinatra and my great days with him. some stories about Regis and my opinion of Regis, who I cherish and love. And that's what it's all about. Short little shots about my memories of life. But as I was going to say, the greatest treat for me was the inaugural for Ronald Reagan. I mean, here was a man that I knew as governor of California, and I was at roast and I made fun of him. And then I'm in Hawaii with my wife, to make a short story, and the phone rings and it's Frank Sinatra. And he got on and went, "The summer wind." No. Anyway, he was pushing an album at that time. I can say that now because he's dead. Anyway, because if he's not and he heard this, I'd be up here like saying, "Walk on, walk on." I see I'm going too fast. So Ronald Reagan, there I was, the phone rings, and Frank says, "Get dressed, get Barbara, get your stuff together, get to Washington, you're going to be on the show, and we're going to, Ronald Reagan's second inauguration." I said, "Frank, you got to be kidding." No time for kidding, I'm telling you. And as it happened, the cabinet said, "You mean you want Rickles on a show for the President of the United States?" And Frank said, "Absolutely." He said, "Well, what's he going to say?" He said, "I don't care what he says. He's whatever he wants." And that's the God's truth. They said, "Well, you can't do that." He said, "If you can't do that, if I can't do that, you can't have me then. That's it. Rickles and me, otherwise forget it." And sure enough, they said, "Okay, Frank." And I got up and made fun, and it was very successful. I told Reagan never to take a nap when I talk. And cabinet did what you people did. But it was a great night for me. And from then on, we became great pals. He was something else, and he'll be missed. And the younger generation will hear his voice on records. For my book, if you buy it, I'm very grateful. My wife has jewelry, and my kids want to go to college. My grandchildren, my kids are grown. My daughter went to USC and studied tennis. Anyway, she talks like her mother. "Dad, my backhand was weak. I make fun of her because she married a rich guy and took her off my back. Anyway, but I will now join my dear friend Regis, and we'll chat, and I thank you, the people of the Y, for having me, and I thank my dear friend once again for just taking time out from his busy schedule. His wife Joy is at home now. The cook died, and she's trying to make a meal. So thank you, and we'll go on. Thank you so much.
Oh, God. Well, you covered everything I was going to talk about, so I guess...
Well, we can wrap it up. Get a sandwich and let's go home.
Well, you know, Don, I met you while you were doing your business as a comedian, and in the book you talk about the early days of your life in Queens, and the fact that you were somewhat shy. Were you really?
Well, as I say, Reg, I don't know if I said it in the book, but I said, I think even including you, if I take that opportunity to say, I think all of us as actors in our beginnings were shy. I think that's what made us actors. I mean, I used to hide behind. See, my mother was a very aggressive woman, American-born and very bright. But she was the type of woman that if you went to Radio City Music Hall and there was a line, she'd say, "There's a line, and we will go in the front." And I was sucking on her ankle going, "Don't, Ma, don't." It's called exaggeration, but she had great aggressiveness and great self-esteem.
Yes.
And she would go to the manager and say, "My son is going to be an actor." My sonny boy, that's what he said, "going to be an actor, and we'd like to have our seating. We've been waiting for hours." And the managers were those little nerds going, You got it, Mrs. Rickles, you got it." And we watched the movie.
So that's the way but she was she was on your side all the way.
And you know, I have a confession to make. I don't think, Reg, that she ever got me. She laughed and supported me. She was like, "Bravo." And she'd say quietly, "Why can't you be like Alan King?"
Yeah.
I'd say, "Ma, why?" Because she was worried about my picking on people and making fun of life, you know.
Right. But in the early days, you tried acting first at the Actors Studio, right? Right here in New York?
Well, it wasn't the Actors Studio. It was too big for that.
Yeah.
I was at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts,
Okay,
which
there
I
you
graduated from, and I'm very proud of that. I really am. And the audience is too.
And you became friends?
Sounds like a Bob Newhart turnout.
And you became friends with, you know, people like Jason Robards.
Yes.
Terrific actor.
Yes, he was.
He loved your mother too, didn't he?
Yeah, he used to come to the house, and my mother made great chopped liver. And you don't have to be Jewish to have chopped liver. It's the kind of chopped liver that Regis, you would have loved,
Yeah.
because you did that on your show the other day. You go, do a lot of that with my mother's chopped liver. You go to bed in the middle of the night and go, but you loved it when you had it.
Yeah.
So Jason used to come, Tom Poston, who we just lost, Tom
Yeah.
rest his soul.
Yeah.
So I hung out with them, and Conrad Bain, and there was so many when Grace Kelly was in the class.
Wow.
I never got near her. I just would smell her cologne by the locker. We used to hang out in the Carnegie Bar, because in those days in the acting, you had to be a tree or a lamp or a bird. And I used to say to Jason, I'm a bird. And we'd have 12 vodkas. Boom, boom, boom.
Did you take it seriously?
No, I drank the vodka to forget about it. Of course, but it taught me a basic background. We did plays. We had great directors, and they always heard that I ate up the scenery, because I was like, you know, I come from the nightclubs. It was like, you, sir, you know. They'd say, all right, this will be a scene. You say you love the girl. I love you, Shirley. I said, take it easy. Take it easy, you know. But he said, never lose that energy, and that energy has carried me.
But I love the stories in the book about, you know, your career. And the first movie you made was with Clark Gable
Yeah.
and Burt Lancaster.
Is that something?
The submarine movie, right?
Right.
And of course, for years we've chuckled about the line that Clark Gable said when there was something on the horizon coming towards him.
Can you imagine, as Regis brought up, I tell it in the book, but yeah, I'm telling you now in person. Here I am, I've never done a movie in my life, and all of a sudden, the director, oh my God, it slipped my mind, one of the great, he just passed away. Anyway, I'll get his memory in a minute. Dig him up. Tony, what's his name? Anyway, so we had this movie, and he's decided we got to have Rickles in this picture for no reason, just like that. Mm-hmm. And I was a sailor, and I said he'd be great for the part. And actually, there was a few agents at the time that helped out and to get me this part. And I came on and said, but I had to read for it. I never read for anything. And there was a work light, as Regis and I know, you people in our business, a light they put in the middle of the stage, and it's pitch dark out there. And I said, you want me to read this about, Mr. Rickles, just read the part where Mr. Gable answers you on the ship about the torpedo. I said, is Mr. Gable out there? No, there's no Gable. You sure there's no Clark Gable out there? No Clark Gable, don't worry about it. All right, quiet. And I pick up the script and I go, the sailors are ready, the gun's in trouble, and the men are on deck. Should we fire, fire, fire? And a voice off in the darkness comes, I say it, take it down, fire, fire, fire. And I went,
He was there.
yeah. Oh. And the director said, snap out of it, you're getting a fit.
How'd you get along with him?
He was great.
Yeah?
Burt was a lovely man, too. Burt was serious, and Clark was, came from the oil wells of Alabama, and he was...
Did he really?
Yeah, and he liked to drink a little scotch, and I loved that,
Yeah.
I was with Jack Warden, also a very famous actor who was in the film, and a great friend, and he passed away just recently. Everything I think about, everybody's dead. It's only you and me.
Yeah, you're right.
Just to sidetrack, my son, as Regis knows, he's been at my home. Up in my dressing room, there's a bunch of pictures. And my son comes upstairs with his friends and says, you want to see my dad's pictures? And he goes, dead, 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 critical, cancer, dead, hanging on the ropes, fading out, died. And it's on my wall, and I keep checking myself. I go like that. And now Regis, thank God, had a heart job, and he looks great.
Oh, gosh. So, Don, but I mean, I just told everybody about what it was like in Beverly Hills when they had one of those banquets and you would close the show. All of these guys got up and did the material that they were known for, that they worked on all their lives. But when you got up, it was just like spontaneous combustion is what I call it, and you just went out. When did that start, and how did it start?
Well, it's a hard thing to say, but I tell you, it started primarily at the parties. You know, I'd get up and they'd have everybody speak, you know, wishing somebody luck, and I'd get up and go, I'm fed up with this party. I don't need it. The food is lousy. I never told jokes to this day. You know, I said I'm annoyed with the host, and to make sure the guy on the left doesn't use a deodorant, and it's really getting to me, you know. And they would laugh and ha 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 ha. And it started out as a little joke, and little by little they started to say, "Get Rickles." And all of a sudden, a guy, when we did the Dean Martin roast, they called me and said, "Listen, Don, we'd like you to be on it." And to make a long story short, everybody else had prepared material, which is very right, and I never could prepare material. Mm-hmm. I just listened to what everybody said, got up, and then bang, 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 and said what I want, you know.
Sure.
I was the first one to say to Frank Sinatra, "I heard you sing, Frank, it's gone." And he did what you did, ha, 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 ha. Had he not, this leg wouldn't be working.
Well, it's... Frank was... but in the later years, Don, you became a big, monumental success in the business, and you always, it was your show. But in the 90s, Frank asked you, in his final tour days, to be with him.
That was great.
And so you opened for Frank.
Yes, I did.
I saw you here at the Radio City Music Hall, remember?
That was a treat. Radio City. Stood with my mother on 57th Street. She said, "Look at that, Don Rickles and Frank Sinatra." And by the way, Frank never got over that. Anyway... And I used to do, Laughter for Love and those songs.
Yeah, sure.
And he'd be in the wings going, "Why is he singing?" I hired this bum, and now he's singing. But it was great tour. The last 2 years of his working life, we traveled.
But he had a temper, didn't he?
Well, yeah, he had his moments.
Yeah, but never with you, was it?
No. Once he twisted my arm. No. No, I was blessed. I would make fun of him, but he had a certain compassion for me that I cherish. The gentleman, my road manager now, knows he used to be with Frank himself, Tony Obelisano, and Tony traveled with him, and then Tony used to be with us. And Jilly Rizzo, remember Jilly's?
Sure.
Jilly's in New York was a little tiny restaurant on Broadway, and we all used to go after work and hang out there, and Frank was there.
What was Jilly like?
Jilly was like a guy with one eye trying to see where the road was. No, Jilly was a warm, passionate guy, but when anybody touched Frank's suit, he went, "Don't do that!" And then the guy walked in and says, "I swollen wrist. I got a swollen wrist." No, he was Frank's protector and brother, and Frank loved him.
They were very close.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, so Don, your days as a comedian began in Las Vegas, in those lounges in Las Vegas.
Tough.
And you worked the shift that began after midnight.
I started at midnight. I followed the great Louis Prima with Keely Smith, and they were magnificent. Yes.
This is in the Sahara Lounge,
Yes,
right?
Sahara Lounge.
And he had 2 shows, and then you would come on.
That's right. And at that time, Reach, everything would clear out. There wasn't a soul there.
Yeah.
And I walk out with 3 guys, a piano player and a bass player, and just like doom, 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 doom. And I'd come out and go, "Sir, your nose looks ridiculous. Your wife, is that your wife?" Ooh. And I would do, "See, that's the A stuff when you see me for big money. This is just like a Jewish rehearsal." And I know there are non-Jews here, but you'll get over it. Anyway, I always kid about the Jews because I'm not. Anyway, see, you can't tell without the armband. Anyway, hey, there's no voting. But as I said, it started in a lounge, and nobody was there. And I started to build up a reputation just by standing out there with the seat of my pants and talk to the audience. And never mean-spirited. I never regret anything I've ever said, because I never was out to hurt anybody. I was out to make them laugh. And if I laughed, I thought it was funny. And if I thought it was funny, hopefully they thought it was funny. And God has blessed me. You've come a long way with me, and I've been proud of that. But I used to stand out there at 2, 4, and 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
And do a show over a bar. There was just a pit, like here we are, right in front of me was a bartender serving drinks and food, and food. God, when I think about it.
And people sat at the bar.
Sat at the bar, and I would make fun of what they're eating.
So
and
if
so
the
forth.
guy came in a cowboy hat, he was
I would
fair
do
game.
10 minutes on the cowboy hat and while he was sitting there, you know. And then I used to run out in the casino. That was my big thing. Run out into the casino. Everybody's going, shooting a 9, 5.5. And I run and go, "Hold it! Hold it! I want it stopped right now. Hold it!" My hand to God, and the whole casino went, "I don't want any gambling. It's not right, and I want it stopped." I'm doing a show in there, and you pay attention, or I walk. You understand me? And I walked back on the stage, and the owner said, "What is he doing?" True.
But that's how you built your following.
Yeah.
And then it helped when Frank would come and see you, right?
Yes.
The whole Rat Pack, Dean
Right.
and Sammy, they'd all come.
And they'd all do tricks.
And I read something, it wasn't in your book, but I read something about one of Frank's visits to your club, and he would get up after a while, 45 minutes, and he'd say, "Okay, that's it, let's go home," while you were still working.
Absolutely.
He did that one night, and you said to him, "Sit down and shut up. I had to hear you singing." You were,
Well, I didn't use the word "shut up," Reg. That's why I'm famous and you're hanging on the ropes. No, actually, what I said, "Frank, I listen to you sing, huh? Be a man, sit down." There's a way, there's a way. I was never unkind, but as you said, the biggest thing in the history of me, as you know, is in Florida, when I first met him. He came in with a bunch of his guys, and all those guys used to sit with him going, a show. They were choking from gunpowder. Show, Frankie, show. And I said, "Frank, stand up, be yourself, hit somebody." And the audience did what you did. And finally, they got a big laugh, and we became friends.
Let's go over a few of these celebrities. Now, what was it like to work with Bob Hope?
You know him?
Because he was a perfectionist, Bob, and he wanted everything scripted, and he wanted a certain delivery. It's a funny story in the book that is just so Bob Hope.
What happens is Bob Hope was a perfect, like Milton Berle, same thing.
Same thing,
From the old school. In those days, they were from the old school. Now I can say I'm from the old school. But every time I worked with Bob Hope, he liked me, but he was a very strict man when it came to his work. And I like to kid around. And they had what they call a dress rehearsal with an audience. And I had it all on cards. You used to read the cards. And I did the big one was with George Foreman at the time, and Rocky Graziano, and all the fighters, and so football, Alex Grasso, and football players that were, popular then. And it was a sports and a locker room scene.
Uh-huh.
So, I read the lines, "Charlie, the helmet don't look good." And Bob Hope said, "That's so funny." Jeez. And I thought it was boring. I'd say, "The helmet don't look good, and your head is swelling, and you look like a moron. That's what you look like." And I used to embellish,
You'd ad-lib, sure.
And the audience would start to laugh. Now, dissolved. Now we go in his office, and he says, "Don, I love you, but let's go over the script now. Now you walk out. What are you going to do?" I'm going to say, "Hi, Bob." Is that the way you're going to say it? Well, yeah, Bob. What's wrong? And the writers would all sit there, and they'd all do what you did. This is before I even said anything. They were like guys with sticks on their ass, those dolls, And, I used ass, and this is the Y. Cancel a minion. And so they would all sit there, and I'd say, you say, "Try it again. Hi, Bob, how are you?" It's wrong. It's wrong. You ask the writers. It's wrong, kid, it's wrong. 10 times in an office. Hey, Bob, wrong. That's the way he was. He wanted it just a certain sound. But he was a good man, and he always made it a little difficult.
But he was a good friend. Didn't you go to England with him and meet all the royalty?
That's right, Princess Margaret.
Yes, one of the...
They had a show, Bob Hope, Newhart, my good friend, and I, and Telly Savalas and Roger Moore, and they had Jack Hawkins, the great British actor, and they had Princess Margaret there.
Right.
And Bob Hope gets up, and make a long story short, and he introduces Bob Newhart, and he does great, and he introduces Telly, and he does some shtick, and it was great. And again, I'm the last guy. And I'm sitting there, and I'm saying to the guy, "Could I have a vodka, please?" And in England, the vodka is to here. I said, "That's okay if you have a sty."
But you talk to the Queen.
So they all do it. Bob Hope introduces me, right? Yeah. Bob Hope goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you," that was his hook line. "I want to tell you, we have a kid here from the United States, fine young comedian. He's a wonderful kid. He's a fine guy. He's going to make fun of you, but it's only a joke. So, Your Majesty, your ma'am, please don't worry. It's just in fun, and I think you're going to enjoy him. Everybody here, and it's all royalty there, and everybody here is going to enjoy him. he's going to make fun of the Queen, but it's only a joke. He's a fine guy. He doesn't mean
really
any harm.
worried.
Yeah, he was serious. It doesn't mean any harm. So what he said, we give him a hand when he comes out, but it's a joke. And remember that he's trying to be nice. And I said to the guy, give me a triple vodka for crying out loud. And I went out, and I made fun of Princess Margaret and made fun of the Queen in my good taste, and I felt it was, and everybody laughed, and it was great. And the show was over, and I sat down, and a guy in white gloves comes over and says, ma'am would like to see you. So my wife, naturally, she starts to get up, and Bob Hope says, I'll go with him. He said, no, just wants to see Mr. Rickles. So Newhart whispers, I'll go to the hotel and get the luggage. Sit down, Princess Margaret, Jack Hawkins, Anthony Quayle, they were her escorts. And she has like a dossier in front of her. And her opening remark is to me, sit down. Well, their secret Scotland Yard is standing around. And everybody says, oh, watch this, what's going to happen? Because I made fun of everybody. And she said, are you a Jew? And I went, oh, Jesus, oh. And Jack Hawkins immediately leaned over and said, Don, it's only a dossier. She's not anti-Semitic, it's nothing like that. I said, oh. And she wasn't, she really wasn't, but that's very abrupt. She had it on the paper, the Jewish. She said, I know so much about you. She said, you're very quick. I didn't get it all, but you were funny and quick. She said, may I tell you, she said, you'll talk about your mother. Your mother lives in Miami Beach, am I correct? I said, yes, but your mother's, at the time my mother was, your mother's 83. I said, yes. She said, my mom was 83. She's talking about the Queen of England. I said, yes. She said, oh, isn't that wonderful? Both 83. She said, I understand your mom has a condominium in Miami. I said, yes. She said, my mom has an apartment right down the street, sort of a condominium. Talking about the palace. She said, so you see, they both have emphysema. Poor things, they both had emphysema.
Yeah.
Emphysema bad. She said, yes, both emphysema. So alike, Don. Isn't that wonderful? I said, ma'am, there's one difference. She said, what's that? I said, your mother has a flag on the roof.
Oh, God. Such great stories. Don, I showed a little clip. I'm showing people a clip of the interviews and the things that we did years ago out in Los Angeles.
Yes, we had fun.
I just take a crew just to be with you and get some laughs. And this takes place in the Palladium in Hollywood.
Oh.
Paul Anka had a TV special. You were a guest on the show, and you walked by and interrupted my interview with Paul Anka. Take a look at this.
Please sit back here.
I guess so, yeah.
How do you feel about this special you're doing?
Well, this special is very special. We got a lot of dear friends on, got some good buddies. It's a good moment for me because ABC and I have been for such a long time. You'd better let me say hello to you in a minute.
Come over here. Come over here.
How are you, Paul? There's a basket case landing 4 lines. Yes, can I help you? I'm talking to Mr. Anka. We don't need any strangers from Ralph's Market, if you don't mind, sir. They are looking for some derelict. He seems been sitting in an alley with a brown bag and a bucket of wine.
Just stop him.
Go away.
Is he singing?
not
I'm not telling
telling
you anything. Why did I wear this outfit today? Why did I wear this outfit
You want to
tonight?
get yourself a tree and become a... which you
That's
can't
the
even
song.
use, but you're a definite parakeet in that trick-or-treat outfit. Making a fool of yourself. Paul, it's good to see you.
All right,
God bless you, really.
thank
And good luck. Yes, a great show. Some great big stars are in there.
You're included?
Pardon me? You're included? No, I'm on a tour. I'm in downtown L.A. on a tour, and the bus got stalled here, and that's why I came by the Palladium. I'm waiting for Lawrence Welk to suck bubbles for a half hour. Dumbbell, why am I here? Go away, Regis. That's why you'll never be a star. You got some sort of wheezing disease. Paul, God bless. Take care. Long live Lebanon.
And then there was the evening that Don attended a party at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel. This was to salute all the Los Angeles people who would come to the Sahara to see you perform, and we had an experience there.
Who are all your friends here tonight? And what is this party all
I
about?
have no idea. I'm with the chefs union. This man here, this is a Chicano, and I'm helping him out. They plan a strike, and I'm going to lead the march. And we're going down to Parker Center for a few laughs.
Isn't that nice? That's great.
Hello, Mom. ABC News doesn't go to Torrance or anyplace else, does it? No, just stays in town.
We stay right in town here.
Good.
Tell me about your summer plans this summer. You and Newhart going away?
Yeah, we're going to go down to the beach and attack a lifeguard. Actually, we're going to go to Paris, but you wouldn't know too much about that. It's too long a bus ride.
But this guy wants some food.
Pardon me. I hate an old guy that's hungry. I hate that. Anyway, now you look terrific. Irving Berlin. Anyway, good to see you, Irv. Love your tunes. But this is the biggest Sahara affair tonight. You know, all the people that are going to spend their money at the Sahara Hotel in Las Vegas. And I'm here with Bert
Who's this
Convy.
guy hanging over your shoulder?
You remember him. He was in the Hulk. Anyway, works on the barge out of Detroit. I don't know who he is. But Newhart and I are going away right after this affair. No, shortly we're going away to Europe. Paris.
To go to Europe?
And then we're going to Marbella, Spain, and so forth.
Good for you. You're becoming world travelers,
That's
aren't
right.
you?
Spit all over me, Regis. I love that. How is your show doing? I don't see it. It's on too early. I understand you're putting it on at 5 in the morning now.
No, it's on at night. It's the top-rated show in town.
Really? You're so humble. I love an Irish guy that's humble.
Well, I want to know why this party's being held. Is the Sahara getting nervous?
No. See, the people at Sahara get lonely, see, so they throw these big parties in town to get the feel of a crowd. See, it's a very big hotel. You know about it. You'll read it in all
Why
the
are you
papers.
here? I see a billboard full of Buddy Hackett, Johnny Carson, Eddie Arnold. Why aren't they here?
They weren't invited.
Never at a loss for words or for a funny line. You ever think about moving back to New York?
I have to hang out with you?
One time.
I tell you, go ahead.
No, but years ago, but maybe 20 years ago, you did come back to New York, and you and Barbara walked in to see the Trump Tower.
Oh,
Donald Trump came out, and this was the first time you
Okay,
saw
I
him.
remember that, too.
And this was, 22 years ago.
Yeah.
And you told me a funny story. And, about,
he took us, we were curious. We wanted to see an apartment. I said, Donald, we want to see an apartment. And we took us into an apartment. The kitchen was about as big as that box. The living room with these 2 chairs. The bathroom was like on an airplane. You pulled the ledger. He says, Don, look at the view. Look at this bay window. 2.7 billion. 2.7 billion, and that's for you. That's for you.
but
Then he said, you got to do what Paul Anka did. You break through a whole wall, you go all the way across with a bay window, 7 billion knots. It's a bargain.
Oh, gosh.
And we never came back.
And how did you meet your lovely wife, Barbara?
She was a hooker for the FBI.
Okay. She had a good job. Yeah.
No, God bless her, I always make fun of her, but why not? It pays the rent, No, she's a great lady. I met Jack Gilardi at the time, a fine agent, who's still an agent
Sure.
at ICM. He had Barbara as his secretary. And Barbara was with him for 6 years, and before I met her and took her away from all of that, she was a very, very astute, wonderful girl with a great deal of warmth and charm, but a laid-back lady. And I was the hello, how are you? And she was going, stop it, pull yourself together.
So did you pursue her?
Well, the way it happened was I came to see Jack Gilardi one day, and she was at the desk, my first meeting with her. And this is God's truth. And she said, and I do her voice, so to speak. And I said, I'd like to see Mr. Gilardi. And she said, what is it in regard to? I said, I'm a butcher, and I have a truck outside. And she said, being a wise guy will not get you in to see Mr. Gilardi. Please, I want to see him. Just control yourself. And buzzed and went in. That shocked me because she came on so back off. And then I was in the lounge, fast forward, and she was with some friends and standing behind a rope. In those days, I was really hot in the lounge. And she said, hi, Don, it's me, Barbara. Can you get me a table? I said, see the head made of D. And then I always had a thing for singers in those days. If the girl sang and you were on the road, they go, Swan, oh! Anyway, so I was always with singers. And my mind was pretty well occupied because when you're on the road, you're lonely. But I kept calling Barbara. Right on the phone, calling Barbara. She said, what is it you want? I said, just a date. And the first date we went out, and I pulled up the car, and I said, Barbara, come on, sweetheart, here's the car. And I had the motor going, and she didn't get in. I said, why didn't you get in? There's a thing called opening the door. And that was the beginning of a Jew torture. But I love her to
Sure.
this very day. We're
She's-
married 42 years.
Yeah. Terrific woman. Oh, God. Now, why don't we reminisce a little bit about the people you met in the business? Some of them mentioned in the book. But Ed Sullivan, did you ever do the Ed Sullivan Show?
Once.
You did?
And we were good friends.
Yeah.
And I did it up in Lillian Lewis's home. Mo Lewis, her husband, rest his soul, was a big promoter and friends of Ed and ours. And we all stayed, we all had a party at her house. And Ed was there. And his son-in-law always said, you know, but Ed wants you on the show. He said, I want Rickles on the show. I think he's a funny kid, funny guy. And I say, Ed, I don't do stand-up. I don't come out and tell jokes, but it's not for me. You can do something, damn it. Be a hell of a night. Hell of a night. So his son-in-law said, I got an idea. Don, you come out, and in between each act, you'll put down the act and say, Ed, you don't need the act. Ed will laugh, and then you'll run off. In Las Vegas, the monkeys come out, the Barzini monkeys, whatever. Ladies and gentlemen, the wonderful Barzini monkeys are going to come out here on this stage. And I run out. Ed, what are you doing out here? Ed, you don't need the monkeys. The monkeys are lousy. They're going to louse up the stage. They're going to be dirty. You're going to have to put paper down. Get rid of the monkeys. The monkeys smell. Bum, bum, bum. You smell. Why are you out here? Anybody ask you to make fun of the monkeys? And I ran off, and I said, Bob, the guy's going to kill me with this. And every time I ran out, he said, who the hell sent you out here again? Show's over. We go back to Lillian's house. We're having a drink. I'm in the other room with my wife going, oh, my career's over. Ed walks in and says, what did I? You killed him. You were special. You son of a bitch, you really knocked them right on their ass.
And then he said, we were very good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We did it, kid. We did it.
We did it.
Buried me. But not meaningful. He didn't even realize it. He didn't, you know. We used to go to Danny's Hideaways in those days, you know.
Yeah.
And he'd say to me, is this a great night? And we didn't have anything. We just were sitting there. What a night. This is a great night.
Tell me about Jack Benny. All the comedians loved Jack Benny.
Yeah, he was what he was. The way he performed, he was that kind of guy. Wasn't cheap, though. Certainly wasn't cheap.
Yeah.
But he created that great image.
Right.
And my experiences in the book, George Burns told him about me. He said, you know, Jack, you got to see this kid. And you'll love him. He makes fun of everybody. And you're going to think it's bad, but it's not bad. I'm telling you. I know the kid, and you're going to love him. You know, George, I don't need it. I don't need a guy making fun of me. Forget about it. No, you don't have to applaud it. 30 years ago, I needed you for that. 50 years, anyway. You know, I don't need the kid. Anyway, make a long story. George convinced Benny to come see me. Now, I come out on the stage, and I'm really uptight. Jack Benny, geez, I want to do good. I do the show, and God was good. It was a good show. It really was. Show's over. My stage manager comes and says, Mr. Rickles, Jack would like to see you. I said, oh, great. Please bring him up. He came up in the dressing room. And I'm sitting there in the bathroom, still with the little perspiring towel. I'm saying, gee, Jack, it's so nice of you to come to the show. I hope you enjoy it. And he just went like, you know, kid, I've seen a lot of guys. George told me you insult people, you say. And I'm the first one that it's not my cup of tea. You know, tonight, watching you was a big kick for me. You really, really came through, kid. And God bless you. And I enjoyed. How about dinner? And I said, thank you, Jack. I said, Barbara, you enjoyed it? Barbara said, stop it, just that casual. Okay. And we go to dinner.
Yeah.
And in those days, in the room, the restaurant, they had the flaming carts, you know, and the violins, you know. That's how I used to get broads. The flaming carts. And all that, you know. Barbara and I sit down, and Barbara says, I'll have the vodka martini with the olive, and I'll have another vodka. Jack, what do you have? I'll have a Diet Pepsi. Okay, next thing comes, flaming thing. Barbara says, I'll have the veal Jean Baptiste with the flaming sauce. And Don, what are you going to have? So I'll have the lamb chops with the lambanin and the mayonnaise and the boom on the side with the boom and the salad. Jack, what are you going to have? I'll have 2 poached eggs on toast and a hot cup of tea.
Oh, he's great.
That was my dinner.
Just wonderful. You talked about Johnny Carson, and remember the time that he picked you up and then 2 of you wound up in the tub? You didn't know that was going to happen, did you? They played that over the years, over and over again. Yeah.
It was great. It was great. He came up with some great things. He really did. And that was a highlight thing with me.
And then you were playing the CPO Sharky, and I guess on the show you broke his little cigarette box or something like that?
Yeah.
And he took umbrage and came right across the hall at NBC. Yeah,
it was a joke.
Did you know he was coming?
No.
Oh.
In those days, as you know today, you have the handheld cameras.
Yeah.
Those days, those big giant things.
They had
you
to
gotta
push
wheel
in.
Push it all the way into the next studio.
Yeah.
And he came in, and that's when the famous line came, and he made fun of me during the middle of a take, and blah, blah, blah. And then I said, Johnny Carson. He said, I know who I am. Stop introducing me. And that became his favorite thing.
It was a classic. Well, Don, were you much of a ladies' man before you got married? I mean, you were 38 when you got married.
38. My younger years, too, as I got older, that sort of eased off. But even later on at 38, I always had the reputation, being the loudmouth guy that would snitch on him if we had made love or anything.
Really?
Well, it wasn't me, but they always thought that, don't go with Rickles. Oh, the whole world will know what happened, But, and I always became a little shy about that.
Oh.
And everybody thought I was the most brazen kid in the world.
Yeah.
But thank God, God was good. He sent down my barber and saved me.
See that? Saved you.
Yes, he did.
Saved you. All right. I'm going to show you how Don Rickles attracts women. You'd be surprised. I mean, they really come on to him. And I was over there. It was the night they were honoring Danny Thomas. And it was a wild night. And the crowd was wild. And this woman came up to you and wanted a kiss. And it became a little bit of a classic. Take a look at this.
Look at this, Ethan.
Who are some of the giants here tonight?
King Kong. I'm about the biggest.
You're the biggest name in the
I looked
room.
around and they're all warm-ups.
But Frank is
Kenny
coming.
Rogers is running around the lobby going, gambling man, I said, fine, Kenny, great song. Great. And Ed Nelson is my idol. He's my trainer.
What is it? Look at, he's dusting you
And
off.
Daddy Simon asked me to kiss you.
And this is just some weird woman. Anyway.
Everybody wants to be with you.
All right, lady, wait in the back. Wait in the car, lady.
What, lady?
Can't touch it.
Lady, what do you want
What
from
do you
Don
want,
Rickles?
lady? Give me a break. My career is hanging on a thread here.
Daddy Simon asked me to kiss you. Daddy Simon.
All Lebanese. We're surrounded. It's all Lebanese. Warm up the car. It's all Lebanese. I don't have a chance.
They got the wild eyes, don't they?
Okay, God bless. Get the truck. Get the truck. Are you in the north?
Wait a minute! There's one Lebanese girl.
He took over.
Wait a minute! There's one Lebanese girl who wants to give you a kiss.
Hello, my darling. Will it be a donation? Shalom. Regis, this turned out to be a special, Regis. It's a special.
This lady still wants.
I don't know who this lady is.
Put me on your time.
Get her a newspaper stand, something. Go downtown Hollywood. I don't need this kind of bedlam.
You know how Daddy feels at Hillcrest now, huh?
I hope your camel dies. Leave me alone already.
Sorry, Mr. Rickles has to go.
I can't handle it anymore, Regis.
Goodbye,
Never
Doc.
call me again.
Hey, where's your camel? Go away, lady! Go away!
See that? Oh, God. I just have one more tape to show everybody, but one time I did a 5-part mini-series, Don Rickles in Las Vegas. Flew over there with the camera crew, and we did a 5-parter, an interview in Don's dressing room and on stage and backstage and all of that. And we began the series with this story about the Don Rickles that not too many people know. Watch this.
You know, there were really 2 Don Rickles. I should establish this right now at the beginning of the series. On stage, on camera, he is the relentless attacker, the consummate wise guy. His act spares no one, no nationality, no religion, no race. No one is exempt, not even his wife. He takes no prisoners and he plays no favorites. But off stage, Rickles is warm and sentimental and loyal. Example, years ago here in Los Angeles, there was a small nightclub on La Cienega Boulevard called the Slate Brothers Club. Rickles made that his home base, and the movie crowd flocked in. They loved him. The biggest crowds in Hollywood vied for his insults. But Rickles' career was at a standstill. He befriended the club bartender, a man named Harry Goines, and he promised his friend that if he ever got that break, he'd take him along with him. God only knows how many promises like this have been made in small clubs all over this country, but this one was kept. In 1958, Rickles saw some daylight. He called his friend Harry, told him to pack his bags, and together they ran for it. And through the years, through all the good times and all of the bad, they have been together. Now, of course, there are only good times. And at the Sahara Hotel in Las Vegas, Harry is there with us when Don Rickles walks in.
Here he is now. What a night this is. Mr. Rickles, how are you?
Oh, what a treat. You're here to see me? I can't believe it. Just when I want to get dressed, I have that annoying person like you in my room. I want to thank you, Harry. This is Harry, my dear friend. He's been with me a lot of years. He checks for grenades and everything. Check the room. There's no mines in here.
Now, Harry's been with you how many years?
Well, it'll be almost 22. We met at the Slate Brothers. He was a bartender, and I was a comedian searching for women and in desperate heat. And this man used to calm me down by singing a spiritual by my bed.
But actually, you made Harry a promise, right? That
I said if I make it big, I would take him with me. And now, thank God, I've been successful, and I'm dumping him. Because I don't need him anymore.
Oh, gosh.
I just want to say a quick word, ladies and gentlemen, and Regis, that was very sweet. Harry Goins is a man that was with me for 40 years. He was a bartender. And I wish he was here tonight. He was a hell of a guy.
Well, wonderful gentleman, yeah. Well, Don, now, I know that you all have questions for Don Rickles. I mean, he is here to entertain and to inform you and to tell you the answers to whatever your questions happen to be. What we need is a little light so Don can see you. And then if you have a question, just kind of raise your hand. Let me know that you want to say something to Don. Don't be afraid. We have security here. Yeah, there's a gentleman right over there. Why don't you stand up and yell out your question? Now, wait a minute, there are two guys. Let this guy go first, and then I'll get you. Yes, sir.
He was referring to, I used to do a joke about my wife and Geronimo, and I strapped myself to the bed, circled the bed when I was Geronimo, and hey, and she'd say, attack, Geronimo, attack. So.
Okay, who's the next? Yes, sir.
I don't have, my career has never been involved with hecklers, and if I do, I would never talk about it, because early in my career, maybe a few stood up, and now they have Blue Cross.
Yes, anyone else? Yes, sir. Hey?
Hey, Charlie! Yeah. It was true. Buy the book.
That was a true story, and yes, it's in the book, and I love the way you tell that story. It's a great, great Don Rickles story.
Yeah.
Yes, anyone else? Yes, way over there, and that against the wall. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Rickles, did any celebrity ever take offense at being insulted by you? And if so, how did you respond?
You know, thank you for asking that. No, in my career, I have never, to my knowledge, and I'm sure there are certain performers and just people. See, my theory is when you stand on the stage, as Regis and I do, and I can't speak for Regis, but I'm sure he'll agree, when you're out there selling yourself, you can't please everybody. And I'm sure in my performances over the years, but nobody in particular, thank God, has made it a very noticeable thing of dislike for me. But if they had, I'm sorry. But I do what I do, and I feel that all of us, when you sell yourself as human beings, you can't win everybody. I try to.
But the celebrities were the ones who caught on to Don Rickles first. And no kidding, he was a tremendous hit in Hollywood in this club we were talking about, the Slate Brothers Club. And it was people like Frank Sinatra who brought the crowds to Las Vegas. And Frank was one of the ones you would insult, and they all really, frankly, loved it.
And the word Regis, has made me successful. I always keep saying it's not insult, as Johnny Carson gave me that great title, which I use today, Mr. Warmth, when they introduced me. It's just true, because the word insult was always something that was a lousy kind of guy, and I really don't do that, but people have known me with that title, so I've gone along with it over these years, and it's been successful for me, but I'm really not that person that insults somebody. I exaggerate and make fun of us, but it's not like an insult to me is somebody that's facetious and kind of mean, and I'm certainly not that.
He really isn't. So don't be afraid. Yes, sir, right here. Would you stand up, sir? Do you have a favorite Dean Martin celebrity roast story?
Oh, there's so many stories about Dean, and I think that the book will tell it all. Not to cut you short on that, but we'd be here till Tuesday if I started in with Dean Martin. But one in particular, I remember Frank Sinatra at the inaugural for Ronald Reagan. We were in the dressing room, and Frank brought me up. I was in a small dressing room downstairs in the Kennedy Center, and Frank said, tell that bullet head to get his bags and get the Secret Service and get him up here. And sure enough, there I am with Dean, Frank, and Sammy, and all of us in this big dressing room. And Sammy went out someplace, and all the guys were standing with the Uzis in the coats going, they're supposed to guard us. They're going, look at what Don's doing. Look what Frank's doing. You know, if somebody wanted to shoot us, they'd be too busy watching us. Anyway, so we were there, and Frank said, now listen, guys, there's no drinking before the show. There's the President of the United States. There's a big night. I don't want any booze. Nobody you got it, Pally. Rickles and I are going to just sit here and wait till you just come out there and do the show. There's going to be no boozing. You got it, Frank. You got it, baby. And Frank left, and sure enough, Dean walked in. He opened up his coat, and it was like airplane bottles. And he said to the president, boom.
Yes, sir. Yes.
I just wanted to thank you. I was in Las Vegas on September 11, 2001. Spent 2 days watching CNN with a broken heart and found out you were still performing at the Stardust. And I never needed to laugh more in my entire life. And I think everyone else there felt the same way. And to make people laugh at that time, it was just incredible. I sat up front, and you actually made me part of the act.
What did he say to you?
Well, basically, he started talking about, he brought up the Navy, and I mentioned, you know, he asked me, like, you know, were you in the Navy? But I said, no, my father was in World War II. And he said, oh, I was in World War II also.
Mm-hmm.
And so he started going through the whole thing about World War II. And then later on in the show, I was drinking a Corona out of the bottle.
Yeah.
I said, come on, Mike, use a glass. Come on. I'll never forget that as long as I live, and I want to thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Very nice. Way back there, yes. Speak up.
What do you think of President Bush?
I never get into politics, but I do think one thing. No matter who the president is, and I've known 5, I do think there are people in this world today, when they talk about a president, whether they love him, God forbid, use the word hate, I hate the word hate, or dislike, fine. But I think the office should be respected, that people should not get vicious and nasty and say things. If you say, I don't like the man or I don't approve, fine. But don't go and SOB and this and that. If it's a president of the United States, don't you think the guys in Europe and the other countries say, look at this, they make a putz out of our president. I mean, maybe some of us, and a good deal at this time, have problems, but still respect the office. That's my opinion.
Okay. All right, ma'am. Might you stand up?
First of all, I must tell you, my husband was right down front, adores you. I myself, we saw you before we were married. You took me to the Copa. And if I said I didn't like Don Rickles, we would not be married. What I'd like to know is why now did you choose to write the book, and what did you leave out that you felt you couldn't leave?
Well, what I leave out is stories about my Uncle Saul. You know, you care if he smoked a cigar and yelled at my Aunt Dora? Who cares? So I wrote memoirs, little episodes in my career that I think are fun, and some are serious about my mother, my father, and things that I think would be your interest in, a good read and a fast read, that you don't have to worry about chapter 9, what are we up to? And so that's my thought. And as far as you saw me at the Copa, I thank you. Those are great days.
She wanted to know why you're writing the book now. We've talked about this over the years.
Well, as David, you know, of Simon & Schuster said to me, he came to see me with my manager, Elliot Weissman, and said, listen, Don, we want you to write a book. I said, everybody has a book, you know. He said, no, because it's you. And I bought that. He said, you. I want your voice in the book. And from the folks I've talked to, say that my voice is in that book, and I hope you'll all agree.
when you read the book, it is like Don talking to you. That's the way the book is written. Yes, way back there. Yes, sir.
I have the E. Martin Rose collection, and I think it's safe to say that it would never air today. Do you think people are too sensitive?
Not at all. I think the star quality in those days was different, and the young people today time marches on, and I don't think they feel that kind of thing anymore. And they do have roasts, and some of them are pretty strong, but hey, if they still buy it, more power to them. But the old days, I think, are gone, and now it's time to move on.
You know, that's one thing, Don. You never really have used the four-letter words or anything even close to that in the act. Never. Am I right? Am I wrong?
Yeah, it's true. It's not something I planned. It's just in my personality. Son of a bitch, pardon my expression, is my big word in the act. That's about it. And I've never gone any further. And I never felt I had to go any further because it's not my style.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Blue shirt, yes?
Right.
What is your opinion of stand-up comedy today as a whole, or comedy in general as a whole today, the direction that it's gone?
Funny is funny. There's so many young people coming up and so many guys, and, you know, like Jerry Seinfeld is a gem in what he did. There's so many. I pick him out because he just recently came to see me in Atlantic City, and he's a charming guy. And the young people, if an audience laughs, and some of them come on with some stuff that's pretty weird to me, but they laugh, and I sit by the set and I laugh. So I guess as long as they laugh, they got it made.
The fellow behind him, yes?
Who?
Bob Newhart's book.
Oh, that's a silly question. You know damn well I enjoy Bob and he enjoys me. We're not in competition, and I love what he says, and I like to think he loves what I say.
Isn't that a strange friendship, though?
It's apples and oranges. We met because of our wives, and I say that, and Bob always kids me. There he goes again. It's key. The wives are key. And it's true. If the wives get along, in my opinion, the guys will always become good friends, most times.
But
and
go ahead.
and Bob's wife and Jen and my wife Barbara became sort of like sisters. They're very close. They talk to each other constantly about life and what have you. And Bob was completely different from me, from the Midwest, and very uptight about a lot of things. He was a very big Catholic when I first met him. Now he's practically a Jew. With my coaching. He's still, Reg, to this day, I swear to God, to this day, he can't say, which you know. He goes, I say, Bob, L'chaim. And he goes, L'chaim. And I say, that's a ranch in Mexico.
Didn't he worry when say you were on a cruise together and you were a little loud or obstreperous, you know, and he would say, please, don't attract any attention?
Well, I used to do that to put him on. Like in Germany, we're in Munich.
Yeah.
And I would walk into the restaurant, and the waiter would come out and say, do you think we could have the salmon? And Newhart would go, don't do that. Don't start that. It's not funny. Don't do it. Then we walk down the street, and I go, you know, Bob, my legs are bothering me, you know.
You know, I don't know what time is it, because
It's 12 o'clock. We got to go home.
really,
It's now 8:45.
8:45. Okay. Yes, sir. White shirt, sure.
I thought you were absolutely great in Casino.
Well, thank you.
How did you get the part, and also do you wish to do any more acting?
Oh, sure, but you know, as time goes on, it's hard to find parts that are suited. I'm 81 years old, and you know, how many grandfathers can you play? But hopefully, if before it's all over, if I get an opportunity, I would love to do that. And I thank you for Casino. I got the part. Marty Scorsese, who is a great director and a lovely man, he happened to think of me, and I wasn't even in the original script. And he wrote in a part called Billy Sherbert. And I worked with De Niro, and that was great, because with Bob De Niro, who was a marvelous actor, but I came from, kidding around a lot. I said, Bob's very serious. Don't kid around, very serious. So the first day we're on the set, and I got a handheld camera, and I'm walking down. They go, roll him, and he goes, oh, I don't feel it. And I feel it. I says, I can't work with this man. He's a mumbler. I can't. From that day on, we became great friends.
Trying to get as many as I can in here. Oh, okay, this fellow right here. This is his third question, I think.
I forgot the first two.
Go ahead.
The
Well, thank you, but I like to think I was part of that. We used to meet in the steam room in the Sands Hotel, and Frank and Dean gave me a bathrobe called the Rhino. And this bathrobe had a giant head of a rhino on back, and each one had a title, and I was the Rhino. And I always hung with them before the show. My show was midnight, and they went on at 8 o'clock. And Frank had hors d'oeuvres and booze and what have you, and the doors were closed, and we all sat in the steam room and had great fun together. So I was a little bit part of the Rat Pack.
Didn't they once force you out of that steam room
Yes,
while you were naked?
in the middle of the day, that's right. In the middle of the day, the lunch hour, we went early one day for some reason or other, and we're all sitting there, and Frank says, hey, Rickles is doing so good. Let's make him really big in this business. Something you might think of. Let's make him really big in this business. And I'm completely nude with a towel, and all of a sudden the door opens, and I pull the towel off, and there I am, completely nude by the pool. And people going, look at Rickles trying to be funny again. Look at
Is there anybody up in the balcony who has a question for Don? Guess the balcony doesn't like you.
Look at that, Abe Lincoln's up there.
Anybody? Okay, well, go ahead, let's hear it.
Don, what do you think of Regis as a singer?
Thanks a lot. Why the hell did I go to
See,
the
you said
balcony?
the singer. Look at this, the old man took a cab. Look at this. There's a big fan, right in the front of
Boy,
the
oh
cab.
boy, walked right out.
Okay.
He was afraid I was going to sing to him.
Yeah. I think of Regis as a singer. Regis, whatever he does on the stage, he does it well. And he's charming and beautiful. And when he sings it, I always kid him. I said, Regis, we're going to do that. When Irish eyes are smiling, and I always kid him about that. But he sells whatever he does. And that's why he's a big star today, and I love him.
Isn't it funny? You started with Sinatra, you wound up with me. Yes, lady.
Again, I think the Ronald Reagan inaugural. I do, with Mr. Sinatra and having all the cabinet and all the distinguished.
And you put on a good show that night?
Oh, yeah, geez, I was right on. I had no idea what I was going to say. I just ran down the aisle, and Secretary Schultz at the time was sitting in the front. I said, Mr. Secretary, your dickie is popping up.
Did they get it?
Absolutely.
They got it, sure. Well, we're about to close shop here. What do you want for 25 bucks?
Is that what it was?
25 bucks. Man is killing himself here. But I love him. I got to tell you, as a young guy, I forget where I saw him first, but I was so taken by him that when I was working in San Diego, California, starting my own television career, I heard that he was appearing at a ad agency's luncheon. And so I went down to see him, and we did an interview out on the sidewalk in front of the U.S. Grand Hotel in San Diego. And, well, I just fell in love with him, and I've been following him for years and years and years. And the biggest thrill I would have in this business is that when I would have Don Rickles as a guest, because I knew it was going to be sheer dynamite and entertainment, and Don has never, ever let me or any other television host down. He's always been the best, most outrageous guest we've ever had.
I think we can wrap it up. I want to say something about you, though. I want to say something.
What was that? Well, wait.
You know, you've been very patient, and we thank all of you. I just want to make notice, my friend, Conrad Hermogenes, stand-up comrade. He's a Filipino boy that's been, not a boy, a man that's been with me now for 2 years. He's from Mabuhay. I have to do that, otherwise I go home and can't find my sport jackets. But I do want to say, I think I can say that.
Yes.
I do want to say, first of all, you've been a magnificent audience to me, and I think that I owe so much to this man sitting here, not to embarrass him, but as he showed clips, we go back so far. But I tell you, when I'm in New York and I get an opportunity to be on his show or to be with him and his wife, Joy, and my wife, Barbara, and I love him as a friend, as a gentleman, and as a great performer. And may God give you years. And my prayers were with you when you went through your terrific operation, which is a tough one to do, and you came out with flying colors, and God is in your corner.
Oh, thanks,
and I'm in
Don.
your corner, and I love you dearly.
Thank you very much, Don.